G'day, I'm Jeff Elder. My wife and I are beef cattle farmers north of Dalby on the Darling Downs. We run mainly Angus cattle on our block, and we supplement using AgSolutions mainly for two reasons: to get our females back in calf, and we do run a lot of little weaner type cattle that we need to get kilos on in a hurry. They're mainly run across either oats or lucerne. And at the end of the day, the quicker we can get the kilos on them and out the gate, the next lot's in. So that's the beauty of our supplementations we're finding. We base our cultivation around forage crops for the cattle. Some of it goes towards the female side of it, to get them to calve onto summer forages. That gives our grass country time to get away. That Christmas to March period, I find is a good one to grow grass for us. And if we can lock that up for winter, that gets us through until the next summer. A portion of our cultivation goes to oats. Obviously we wean off the cows onto the oats, and then the other part of the cultivation is actually of straight lucerne, which we find is very good for weight gain. We run a lot of our littler cattle to get them anywhere up to that sort of 450 kilos across the lucerne. It's very quick. It's mainly a summer growing period for it. So we've only got a certain window to get them on, get the weight on them and get them out the gate, which is very handy for us. It's a good period to get rid of all our young cattle off. At the end of the day, it's kilos on in a hurry. That's what we find with the lucerne. Yeah. The big thing is probably we don't have massive acres and we don't have a large amount of cattle. So we've got to sort of use what we've got. We're not big acres, but if we can run a few more head per acre and do it a bit more intensively, then that's all money on the bottom line, really. So yeah, we're probably chasing more of an intense production. Yeah, look, over the years, mate, I did a lot with supplements when I was selling them and watching them and trialling them and that sort of stuff, and watching people use them. I'm a bit of a fan of them myself in the right situation, because once again, mate, we don't have massive amount of acres, so we need to make sure that cow has a calf every year, and the quicker I can get that calf to the top of the weight range, the better, which is why sometimes if you sit down and do the figures, a few cents at the start of the day will make the difference at the other end. It's just how much you put in for what you get back out is what you just got to probably have a good look at. Every situation is different, and that's probably up to the individual to work out whether they're going to make money out of it. We find that, you know, our preg testing rates are always in the high 90s, and they need to be, you know, for us to make sure we've got enough cattle coming through each year. The challenges that we do face here is probably a long dry winter. That's why we'd really love to lock our country up for the end of summer to get a good grass growth there. So that's always very challenging, that winter, the end of winter period, to keep the cows in good nick, because they are going to calve in September. So they've got to be ready to go, and they can't come out of winter too poor. We then had a long dry sort of summer going into Christmas time, which everything was starting to burn off, and that's what it does in this sort of ridge country. It gets a bit of a burn off, but if we can leave our ridge country a bit longer with grass, we find that there will be green underneath it that'll keep the cows going, supplement them, and they'll fly out of winter normally. It's summer, but once again, that's why we sort of tailor our cropping around what we do, to make sure that if we do get an inch or two of rain, we're going to get some sort of green feed for the weaners to go onto and keep them going. We just can't afford for them to go backwards. The use of our lucerne is a very quick weight gain. We do try and put a fair bit of phosphorus out with them. They seem to go for it and like it, which I think, from what I can understand, lucerne does like a phosphorus, that sort of stuff. So to keep them going, yeah, look, as far as weight gains go, it just depends on the beast. You know, we've had cull cows do 2.7 a day in a hurry, when they're just store condition. The last lot of steers we did in pretty challenging summer, was very hot, not a lot of shoot on the lucerne. Over 70 odd days, they still did 1.5 a day. So we find that if we can supplement, 1.5 might become 1.55, and it's still making a difference. We try to put supplement out with most crops that we do. Just normally, if they're looking for it and craving it, we find they go to it. They will walk off and leave it if they don't want it. I have found that in the past, and it could sit there for 3 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden they'll just come back and start. So they're obviously looking for something, change of the season as it dries out a little bit, something like that. So I tend to try and put it out all the time if I can, weather permitting obviously. If it's really wet, it's probably not a good thing. But at the end of the day, if they come looking for it, then they're obviously they're missing something in their diet, I'm thinking. Which is why we tend to put it out. When we're grazing a lucerne, there's a high phosphorus dry lick we've been using, and it's very similar too. Like if they're looking for it, they'll go for it. Sometimes they'll walk away for a week, but they'll come back and smash it for 10 days, which is sort of telling me that they're looking for it. It's obviously the stage of the crop, what the crop's not getting out of the soil, etc., etc. We're just doing a little bit now with fertilising it to see if that makes a difference. But at the end of the day, mate, the more production I can get out of it, the quicker, the better. Yeah, the cattle are gone and my country's resting, so that's the main thing. The 13-14 was very dry, and we hadn't budgeted on using a lot of lick for a long time. We ended up we did, and I think it was still a very good thing. Our preg test rate was still very high. I did a lot of work with AgSolutions that year, mainly for the fact that to slow them down, I could buy any sort of salt urea lick I liked and just make it sourer and sourer. But I really wanted to keep the protein into them and make sure they're going to come out the other end, because they all weren't that far off calving when we were doing it. So the thing I liked about the AgSolutions product is that they could custom make what I was going to need for my requirements at that time. That was very important, that there was no point just keeping on upping the urea intake to try and slow them down. I didn't think I was going to get much out of that. I was willing to spend a bit of money if I could get them out the other end, and I think we preg tested from memory about 96 or 98%. So I think the money was well spent doing that. I liked that I could work with the infield staff from AgSolutions and get them to tailor what I needed. I enjoyed doing a lot of work with them, because we sort of went on and then made a few different licks that really suited this area, or suited my cattle, and obviously from a selling point of view, a lot of people around the district could use them. That was sort of what we were chasing, not just for my own cattle, but something that you could use in this district that you could see was going to be good for the cattle and keep them going, get their fertility going, and at the end of the day, having good nick coming out the other end to calve and be ready to go on that calf. So yeah, it was a challenging time, and it cost us a bit of money, but I think at the end of the day, it probably paid off. If I was to introduce AgSolutions to one of my neighbours or someone around the district, a big comment that I hear is people watching the condition of your cattle, and that's always a good indicator of the health of them and the well-being of them. Like any grazier, mate, I love my cattle and I want them to be healthy and happy, and that's got to come number one, really, because that's what's making me the money. So to introduce AgSolutions, you'd be going, well, you know, it's a pretty simple thing. Do they fit into your system? Is it what you're looking for? And really, at the end of the day, how can they improve your bottom line, really? The good thing about them is their infield staff enjoy working with the clients. They enjoy and they love people's livestock as much as the grazier likes them himself. So anyone that's looking to add that extra 5 or 10% to their bottom line, it's worth having a look at and talking to their staff and seeing if there is a way there that it could fit in and be a benefit to them. Dalby it's got a massive range of soil types. There's heavy, black, beautiful timber plain soil. Even up in these ridges, there's some really nice chocolate soil, the odd rock or two, and it goes through to like a red soil, like a soft red soil. The Coolabah Ridges is the main ridge north of Dalby. Good cattle country, grows a lot of grass. It's one of those areas, it's very hard to fertilise it or do anything with it because of the rock that's obviously in it and the trees, etc. Which at times proves a bit of a challenge, which is sort of why my wife and I leant towards doing supplementing, to try and make the most of it, what's there. It's really beautiful cattle country. But sometimes it does have a long, hard winter, and that's when they really, you really need to do something to keep them motoring along. Not saying that they'll die in it, but if you want them to pop out the other end fat, then that's something that you just got to have a look at, really. Farming nowadays is a business as much as it is a lifestyle. At the end of the day, if it's not making money, you might as well go and get a job in town. Most people love it, and that's part of it. But at the end of the day, love and not making money don't really go together. So you do, mate. You have to form good partnerships. We always pick our agent and try and stick with them, who does the right thing, who knows my business. And then obviously, like most graziers, we love our livestock and we want whoever we're working with to love them as much as we do. So partnering with people like your AgSolutions and blokes like that, when their on-farm crew come around, you know that they've got your best interest and your animal's best interest at heart, which is probably the main thing. Yes, making money is always there, but at the end of the day, you really want someone that's going to have your interest
that's right.
foremost instead of the bottom line for them. Anyone that I'm going to spend money with has to add value to my business, really. You know, look, at the end of the day, it's a business, and we're here to make money, and yeah, the partnership needs to be both ways. We sort of always keep going back to the size of the operation, and if it's not massive, well, we need to make sure that every beast is hanging more kilos. We get paid per kilo. And I suppose the way I look at it is I need kilos, and I need kilos in a hurry. That's my biggest thing. I can't afford to have a steer sitting in a paddock for a month doing nothing. He's got to be going the whole time. So genetics is big. I've seen that myself. You know, the difference, $3,000 difference in a bull can make a big difference at the other end. It's quite amazing what the two bulls side by side with the same cows, the calves are completely different. That's the genetic side of it. I suppose with our Angus cattle, they're good genetics and they're going well. I just need to make sure that cow has a calf every year, and the calf's out the gate as quick as I can get him out the gate. Of course, that's when your nutrition comes in. You know, to spend a little bit on them, to get them in a hurry, is the quicker I can put that money in the bank, the better. This region actually of my generation has got a fair few people that have come back to the land. Yeah, it's really good to see. It's sort of, you always look at and hear about the ageing population, but from my age group, there is a lot of them coming back to the land, yeah. And I think technology's got a lot to do with it as well. You know, like probably the cattle job is catching up now. We want to know genetics, and we want to know weight gains and things like that. Whereas my mates that are cropping fellas, you know, 10 years ago they were all GPS'd, knowing exactly how many acres and what crop mappings of harvesting and stuff like that. Like their technology is really snazzy. And I can see a lot of that's going to start coming into the cattle job as well. Like we want to start knowing how much fertiliser and start treating our forage crops as a crop, and you know, and you can't keep taking it off. Something's got to go back in, and I suppose my generation's looking at that more, and the supplementing is the same thing. You know, we're looking at that going, well, what do we have to put back in to make sure in 10 years' time we're going harder than what we're going now, sort of. So yeah, it's probably an exciting time for young people in the ag industry. In terms of buying places, it's probably harder nowadays. You can't walk into a bank and say, can I borrow the whole lot and go and have a crack? They say no. You know, there's ways to work into it, then there are government things that help you get into it and stuff like that. But once you're in and going, I think, you know, the technology and that's there, that it can really, you can get a bit of a roll on. Yeah, it's pretty good. Prior to full-time farming, I was actually involved in rural merchandise for about 20 years. I was born and bred on a farm and always had that love, but I also liked the rural merch game. I got to deal with so many different clients, and pretty much not only was it dealing with the clients, but it was also a good learning curve as well. I could watch every client, see what they did, how they did it. You know, it was amazing. The good ones, the bad ones, didn't matter. You got to see everyone's opinions and thoughts and to see what to do. So yeah, that was sort of through my younger years, and we always had a bit of stock floating around here and there. And then we made the decision that we'd go and buy a place of our own and go down that path. Yeah. I first came across AgSolutions. A client actually bought a pamphlet in and said to me, can you get me some of this to try? And it was just a mineral blend, a basic mineral blend that he wanted. I then went and had a look at his cows and thought, well, they're actually going all right on this. So we started investigating what AgSolutions was and what they're all about. And I suppose over time the relationship just grew. They're a good company to deal with, and we enjoyed it. They're passionate about what they did and how their company came across to us. You know, we're in rural merch, and it was important to have good companies to deal with. Their products have just got better and better over the years, and I think that's part and parcel of their good staff out in the field wanting to know what areas are needing what, and knowing what's got to go to that area. They tailor their supplements, which is a big thing. You know, not all cattle in all areas will take everything. They're willing to chop and try things and try and make stuff work for people. So from a reseller's point of view, that was very good to have a different, like there's 50 lick companies out there all banging salt and urea. It's you know, it's the ones that go the extra mile and want to know what else they can do and what are you looking for, and You know, are you chasing more proteins and stuff like that for different things? So from a rural reseller's point of view, they were very good to work with. Once I'd finished in the rural merch game and went full-time on the land, I've used that 20 years of knowledge to virtually go and have a look and sit down with myself and go, well, you know, is there a way I can make a little bit extra out of this, and what am I looking for, and what am I trying to do with my own stock to get them out the gate quicker. So that's why I tend to use a few of them here and there, just to make sure that the stock are performing like I need them to perform, because at the end of the day we want them going forward. If I had to say one thing to the people in the city about life on the land, A, we feed you, and B, it's not all hate and knocking trees over. You will actually find that most graziers love their animals probably more than anything, and they love their country. It's what makes them their money. It's at the end of the day, they've got to turn up here every day. It's like your office desk. If it's not neat and tidy, it's not a happy place to go to. We're not here to rape the country. We're here to look after it. You know, I've got 3 boys that I want to pass it on to. So at the end of the day, you know, we look after it and we cherish it. You know, and we really want to pass it on to the next generation. So yeah, it's not all knocking trees over and being nasty and stuff like that. It's actually, you know, we do love the country and our cattle, and we pretty much love feeding the population.